The expenses worksheet in the Sustainability ROI workbook is used to calculate how the proposed project will save the company both operating expenses and HR related expenses. So let's take a look at how it does that. The yellow cells on this sheet invite current company expense to be entered. First of all, identify the likely expense areas that your project will directly or indirectly impact. You don't need to worry about tracking down data that you won't use, so just fill in the likely ones to be impacted by your project. And after you've done that, it might look something like this. So I'll scroll down and show all of the ones that we've entered. Notice that we just left the others blank because we're not going to be using them. And now what we need to do is estimate the potential percent savings for each of the line items that we are going to be using. And you'll notice there are lots of little red triangles in the upper right hand corner, so lots of guidance on how you might be able to do that. So for example, let's take a look for the at the one for the energy line item. So we click on that, we right click, go to edit comment, and that opens it up so that we can read it. And you'll notice that there's a description, there's context, there's possibilities of what other companies have been able to realize that might be relevant to your project, and there's some estimation guidance. You can also add at the bottom of this, you can edit this, and you can add something which reflects the fact that you've also talked to other sources, as encouraged by the estimation tips on the introduction worksheet. And you can make a note to that effect. So you can just say note, if you can spell it correctly. So note, and then you can fill in what other sources you have tapped into. So it's a bit of an audit trail on how the estimate was made for this particular line item. So it might look something like this, where you've talked to somebody in your own company, someone in another company for their experience, and that just justifies your estimate a little bit more than sort of a swag approach. So let's close this comment. Click anywhere, back here, and now we can fill in the percent savings column. And after we've done that with the guidance from the comments and other sources, that column might look something like this. So as we filled in all of those percents, the calculations in the light purple column have also been extrapolated by Excel for us. So we end up with a total for the potential savings on expenses that the company might realize as a result of this project. We also need to make sure that we allow for any additional savings that might be associated with a project like this. So if you were doing a retrofit, there may be some maintenance of a roof garden, or solar panels needed to be cleaned or something of that nature. You'd enter those line items here. There's a 100% chance that they're going to happen. So you put that kind of information in here. In the case of our project, we'll assume that there aren't any, and we'll just move on to the next section, which gives us a chance to estimate savings associated with employee expenses. So you'll notice that there may be some savings associated with hiring expenses and attrition expenses, and the comments over here explain all of that. Higher productivity from employees working in green buildings, and there's good evidence that that happens. So you fill in the appropriate estimates and amounts here, and when you're finished, it might look something like this. Just make sure when you do all of these estimates that you engage the HR folks, because they're going to want to be folks that you can rely on to assure whatever estimates that you made are going to be possible for this kind of project. And this is this kind of sleeper in the whole business case. Very often this particular aspect of the potential savings is not considered in the business case. So it's important that you do this carefully and be conservative. And it's amazing how much savings can be realized in this particular area. So after you're finished this, all of the results that we have entered on this page, the employees savings and the net savings up above on the net operating expenses, they will have been automatically populated or copied into the CapEx request template. So in the CapEx request template, we've already done the revenue. We just did the operating expense savings and the employee related expense savings, and all of these numbers have been automatically transcribed by Excel into this summary homepage, the CapEx request template. So we're working our way through this, and this is a good way to keep track of how deep into the calculation of the business case we are. So that's a quick overview of how to complete the expenses worksheet, and let's move on to the next one, the capital and the ROI worksheet.